Uh-oh. Well, we knew that was coming. I'm good. Wow, I really don't want to clean this up. Hello. You know why we're here. Let's just do it. It's like at least 70. At least. Because I'm sure there are some that I just forgot that I haven't hauled yet. Sunday's freaking out because I'm surrounded by books and she like can't get to me and she doesn't know who I'm talking to. So I'm sure there are some that like I'm gonna forget to haul because whatever. A lot of them I've already read, which makes me feel good. Oh, I didn't even count that pile.
Oh, Jesus.
So I think we're around 80 or so. I haven't done a book haul, I think, since like this time last year. So in my defense, this is me justifying to myself. It's been a year that 80 something books have entered my home, and a bunch of them I've already read because they were either book club books or I just already read them, or I purchased them after reading them through the library and loving them. But also a lot of these are unread, and some of them were gifts. Some of them I bought new, but a ton of them I've bought used or secondhand or thrifted. There's a great local used bookstore near me that I have a slight addiction to. Shout out Christy, you know what you did. The truth is, I really didn't think that it was this much. I just went through like my whole TBR cart. I went through the normal shelf that's like above these shelves that you could see in like the normal background of my videos. Those are almost all new in the last year, so I pulled that whole shelf down, and a bunch of books like on my red shelves I pulled off because I don't think I had hauled them before, and it stacked up to 80 something. And
whatever.
One of my first videos on this channel was like a chat about booktube consumerism, and it's kind of cute to look back on it, and I think there's a lot of things that I would change or leave room for exceptions or wiggle room in that video, but it's a little bit ironic because here I am about to haul a bunch of books that I've brought into my home, and none of them I've read while filming in front of my bookshelves. So
people contain multitudes or whatever, you know?
And since there are so many, dozens and dozens and dozens, I'm not gonna talk about them like in length because we'd be here for actual hours. If I talked about each of them for a minute, we'd be here for an hour and a half. So we're definitely not doing that, especially the ones I've already read. I will link below the playlist of all of my wrap-up videos and also the playlist of all of my like book club live shows and stuff. So we're gonna quickly go through all of the books that I've purchased for book club. Most of them I've already read because they've passed. All of the books that I need to haul but have already read, and then all of the books that were gifted to me in the last year by some lovely friends. And then the fourth category is random books that I've just bought. And there's like a little subcategory for nonfiction within that category. So that's probably what I will leave timestamps for, but it's definitely going to be a smattering of genres and vibes across the board the whole video, because really that's what my taste is. You know this. You know this. I'm definitely stalling because this is super intimidating looking at all of them in front of me right now. So we're just gonna dive right in and rip off the band-aid, so to speak. I'm gonna start with this gigantic pile. I want to hold this up so you could appreciate. I feel like I'm gonna drop a lot of books in this video. Oh, already dropping books.
We manifested that, didn't we, kiddos? Okay.
This stack that I'm already dropping again is only the book club books. So that's where we will begin. First, we're gonna go through all of the books that I've purchased for Hot Girl Book Club, my Hot Girl Book Club picks that I run on my channel every month. The first one is The Wild Ones by Nafisa Azad. Hello, beautiful, stunning, gorgeous cover. This is a YA standalone, like, feminist fantasy. Amazing. Found family, The beauty, the grace, we love her. Next is Olga Dies Dreaming by Xochitl Gonzalez. This we just talked about. This was like the most recent, as I'm filming this, the most recent book club live show that we did for Hot Girl Book Club. This is definitely like hard-hitting contemporary literary fiction. Deals with this woman who's like a wedding planner in New York City and is Puerto Rican, and it takes place during Hurricane Maria, wreaking havoc on Puerto Rico and a lot of family stuff. A lot goes down in this book. I said I wasn't gonna explain things. Okay.
I like this book. Moving on.
Beasts of a Little Land by Hehe Kim. This is historical fiction based in Korea during the Japanese occupation of Korea in the 1930s and like the fallout of all of that. Amazing, beautiful, fantastic, and the author's debut. Hello? Incredible. The King of Infinite Space by Lindsay Fay. This is, get ready for this. This is a queer, modern New York City retelling of Hamlet with neurodiverse rep, LGBTQ plus rep, and just so much fun. Okay, these two you should not read. These are the worst two I've read for book club so far is Cunning Women by Elizabeth Lee. This was actually the very first pick for Hot Girl Book Club. We worked out the bumps after this one. This is like, I guess, historical and follows like a family of witches, kinda, but nothing really happens, but she's pretty. Shallow Waters, I have such mixed feelings about this book still, but basically it's a mythology retelling, African mythology retelling about Yemaya, who is a black mermaid. The last two I have for Hot Girl Book Club, I haven't read yet, but am currently in the works. Cleopatra and Frankenstein. This is contemporary literary fiction, and is about this young artist who travels to the United States and kind of gets into this marriage with an older man out of like stability and necessity and a chance for a green card, and then things happen. And then I also picked up Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis, which this is like a modern historical, I think it's like 60s, 70s, where this woman teaches, has a cooking show, teaches a cooking show, but instead of it being like a housewife, woman in the kitchen kind of a cooking show, she makes it very like chemistry forward and empowering and exciting, and I'm really looking forward to it. And since we haven't read these, I guess I will plug that Cleopatra and Frankenstein, we were reading in April, but the live show is the first Wednesday of May, and then Lessons in Chemistry is May's pick. So the live show will be first Wednesday in June. I can't believe it's already been this many months since starting that book club. Wow, amazing. Next are the books I have for the Found in Translation Book Club, which is a book club that I host with my friends Annie from Annie's Book Nook and Brittany from Literarily Smitten. And we read a different work in translation every single month, and we try to spread them out across genres and across languages and countries. First, I have Strange Beasts of China. This was our most recent read, fantasy, set in China, and you follow a cryptozoologist who is like trying to learn about these mysterious beasts that live among humans in this city in China. Then I have Breasts and Eggs by Miyako Kawakami. This was a lot of fun, really interesting. This is translated from Japanese and is told in two parts. The first part, a woman is like very obsessed by the idea of getting breast augmentations for herself, and the second part is about a woman who's trying to become a mother without a husband or a partner, and all of the different avenues that she attempts for that. So like, you know, breasts and eggs. Very good. Audiobook is also really good. Then I have The Iraqi Nights by Dunya Mikhail, which is so tiny. It's a book of poetry. This is what we are reading for April, like this month, because it was National Poetry Month. And this is translated from Arabic and is obviously a collection of poems, and kind of reframes the legend of Scheherazade and 1001 Nights to the author's own lived experience. And I've already read this, but it's very interesting and I can't wait for book club about it. And then the next two on the agenda for Found in Translation is The Bonefire by Georgi Dragoman. I want to say that it's a mix of magical realism and contemporary, and it seems to be pretty hard-hitting contemporary. Follows this orphan, like loses her parents very traumatically, and the city country is like torn up by war, and she meets this mysterious witchy grandmother figure. So I think this will be a really interesting one in a book club setting. That's our May pick, by the way. And then our June pick is Notes of a Crocodile. This was originally published in 1994, and this book is literally about a coming of age story of a bunch of queer misfits in late 1980s Taipei. Like, hello? This book was like 30 years ahead of its time in terms of like queer literature and safe spaces and works for LGBTQ plus folks. It's definitely considered like a modern classic, and I can't wait to read it. Okay, those are all the ones I own from Found in Translation. You're just gonna watch the stacks grow behind me, probably. Now I'm quickly going to go through the stack of books that I've already read but have not hauled. Starting with The Paper Palace by Miranda Cowley Heller. Kind of an interesting one where the current plot is told in one day, but there's like a lot of flashbacks thrown in, and I would consider it contemporary. It's shelved as romance, but I don't think I would consider it romance, but definitely like summery, summer vacation, beach read, but like really heavy, really hard-hitting beach read vibes. A Special Place for Women by Laura Hankin. This I read with Jan for her book club, the Full Moon Book Club. This is about a struggling journalist who goes undercover to try and infiltrate this notorious secret society for women in New York City. And she's like, oh, are they just like rich white ladies obsessed with tarot and astrology, or is there like actually something else going on? Really interesting, and definitely took me for a ride. Then I have Utopia Avenue by David Mitchell. I'm like 70% through this. It's just really long. The audiobook is like 27 hours. So it's taking me a while, but I counted it in this stack because I definitely can speak on it. This is like a very long, drawn out, in-depth Daisy Jones and the Six. It's like a really interesting historical fiction music industry kind of a book. I'm having a great old time with it, but I have checked out the audiobook from the library probably 4 times and have it in my holds again because I just read a few hours each time. And I love this cover. It's like kind of a sneaky record on the cover. Really cool. Next is Blackout, which is a short story collection by a bunch of different YA authors. And I talked about this in my most recent wrap up. It follows a bunch of different young Black teenagers as they navigate New York City during this one day where there's like this sweeping blackout across the city. And it all leads up to this like block party in Brooklyn at the end of the day. Really, really good, super short, super fun. The next 2 are both from Kate Quinn. I have The Rose Code and The Alice Network. I bought The Rose Code after I read an arc of it last year, and it became one of my favorite books of the entire year, so I had to own it. And then I also bought The Alice Network by Kate Quinn, which I didn't like as much as The Rose Code, but now it's like, it was still super good. They both have to do with female spies and female intelligence around World War II, and this one also World War I a little bit. So if you like World War II historical fiction and also like women doing badass spy shit, like maybe try Kate Quinn. Next I have Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper. I loved this book. A lot of my friends really hated this book, but this is like a cutesy romance, but they're witches. That's really it. That's really it. Oh, and it's sapphic. There's that. Cutesy romance, sapphic witches. That's the key. This I've recently picked up. I already read this like a year ago, A Very Large Expanse of Sea by Tahira Mafi, but I grabbed the physical copy, which I didn't own, because this one is signed. So look at that. How about them apples? This is such a good book. It follows Shireen, who's a Muslim teenager in 2002, just 1 year after 9/11, and the things that she deals with as a young high schooler and also a young Muslim girl, and her spunk and sass and life and family is so good and such a blast, and this is one of those books I think everyone should read. Next is Middle Game by Shannon McGuire. This I also purchased physically after I read the audiobook and became obsessed. I have no idea how to describe Middle Game. It's definitely, I guess, speculative, like contemporary speculative. There's these estranged twins who kind of grow up together but not together, and there's a lot to do with math and language, but like those are the magic, like the sci-fi elements, magical elements have to do with one of the twins being super gifted in math and the other being super gifted with words and language, and it's genius. It's genius, and I'm due for a reread. Next, I have Eat a Peach by David Chang, which this is a food memoir. I love his documentary series on Netflix, Ugly Delicious, and I just learned so much about him and his restaurants and his kind of rise to fame, becoming a celebrity chef. The audiobook is read by him, but I will be keeping the book around because
I want my boyfriend to read it, and I think he would like it a lot too.
Hello. Doing stuff.
Doing stuff.
I didn't realize how many it was until I got them all around me. And then also I have Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney, which was a isolated setting domestic thriller that was written in a really cool way, but wasn't like my favorite overall, but like kind of a cool one. That's the ones I've read. The next little stack are gifts that I can't believe I haven't hauled these, and I'm so sorry if I forgot any. I did my best to rack my brain about these. Okay, let's do it. The first three are from Reader Dare last year, when the roomies and Rachel and me all gave each other a book to read during our weekend Reader Dare readathon, and I can't believe that was almost a year ago. Rachel got me Waking Gods, which was the second book in the Themis Files trilogy. It's like Rachel's favorite series. I have read this. It was fantastic. It's a sci-fi series following these like mysterious, gigantic robots that show up in pieces all over the country. It's really weird. It's really cool. It's genius. It's told in the like interview style. Epistolary? Is that I can never remember the word. I feel like that's the word. Okay. Monique got me Ace of Spades. This is a YA, like, kind of dark academia thriller, but I really think it's more of just a dark YA thriller. A lot of really serious topics, but I think it was very well done, and I really had a really good time with this one. The third has become my TBR white whale of the last year, which is Mistborn, that Christine gave me and wrote me this beautiful note on the inside, and this was now a year ago. She has read it. We originally were going to buddy read it, and that has come and gone. I have attempted to read this so many times. There are tabs in the top for a thing that you don't need to worry about right now. Mistborn, The Final Empire, it's happening one of these days.
One of these days.
Then I also have one to watch, which my friend Nicole from Bon Bon Reads bought for me when she visited me around my birthday, and we buddy read this together. Both of us loved it. This is a romance that kind of plays with the trope of like the reality TV series, or am I saying this so strange? Reality TV like The Bachelor, where there's like one person who's the lead and then has to like date all these other people in a reality TV setting. The audiobook was great. The physical copy is great. I read them like at the same time. We have a plus-sized lead main character, and she was amazing. It's so smart. It's so well done. Obsessed. Then this is a mystery. This is Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson, and I still have no idea who sent me this. This showed up around my birthday last year, and I don't know where it came from. So if this was you, please tell me so that I could actually finally thank you. Follows this missing teen, and no one seems to care that she's gone missing except for her best friend, and kind of explores all of that and what happens. The back says nobody cared until they found her 1 year later. Also for my birthday, Rachel got me The Down Days by Ilse Hugo, and I haven't seen this anywhere. The cover is awesome, and the back literally says science fiction and spirituality intertwine, which really I don't need to know more than that. I think it's weird and going to be fun and strange, and I'm excited about all of those things. Then we did like a bookish Secret Santa in December, and my Secret Santa ended up being Jayla from Lala Loves Lit, and she got me a physical copy of Amari and the Night Brothers, which I'm so excited about to actually own this and treasure this, because this was one of my favorite books of last year. It's a middle grade fantasy. It scratches all of the best itches that you would want from like a wholesome, sprawling, whimsical middle grade fantasy while also still being so complex and so deep and so well done. And it's just, it checks all the boxes and I'm obsessed and I can't wait to read the next one. And then she also got me Hollow Kingdom by Kira Jane Buxton, which is funny because I had accidentally bought myself Feral Creatures, which is actually the second in the duology, but I bought Feral Creatures first because I was so intrigued because it tells the story of the apocalypse through the eyes of a domesticated crow, all with a layer of satire, which is, if you ask like an AI to come up with a book specifically written for Noelle, that feels like what it would come up with. And so now I actually have the first book in the series, and I want to do a vlog about these because it sounds way too specific and too perfect. So that will be coming soon, I hope. Then also, speaking of Christy, who is the owner of my favorite local used bookstore, she has gifted me a couple of books because she follows my Instagram and watches my channel, and sometimes I'll go in and she'll be like, oh, you said you wanted to read this, such as The Obelisk Gate. She just gave this to me. So thank you. I can't wait to read it. This is so high on my list. The 5th season is a complete straight up work of genius. And this is the second in that series, Broken Earth series. I don't know how to describe that series. It's N.K. Jemisin just doing her thing in a league of her own. Sci-fi fantasy, multiple POVs. One of the POVs in the 5th season is like the second person POV. It all makes sense in the end. It's amazing. And then most recently, Christy also gifted me Luster because I posted that I wanted it on Instagram where it was on my TBR, and I went in to the bookstore shortly thereafter and she was like, you should just have this. And I said, thank you so very much. This was nominated for the Women's Prize for Fiction last year, which I think is how it came up on my radar. Has a lot of mixed reviews. I think it's kind of a polarizing one. This follows a young Black woman who kind of ends up into this like open marriage with this man and his wife, but they also want her to like mentor their daughter. And so she like lives in the house with them. I don't know. I've heard so many things from glowing to horrible, and I'm excited to make my own opinion. But yeah, so the rest of this has no theme except that they're all recent acquisitions, recent purchases, and then sub stack for the nonfiction also. I have 3 fiction stacks and 1 nonfiction stack. This first stack might seem like it's grouped together in certain ways. Maybe I shouldn't tell you that, but it is in a very specific order because I'm planning multiple things with all of these books, but alas. The first 2 that I have, one is Self-Care by Lee Stein. It's this like kind of short, super fun, bright pink book that has to do with influencer culture and is like a funny, short satirical novel about the ups and downs and perils and toxicity and memes around influencer culture, Instagram culture. Then I also have Hey Ladies, the story of 8 best friends, 1 year, and way too many emails. And I just think this sounds really interesting and fun. It's completely mixed media, mostly like emails and DMs and texts and all of those like really fun things. It'll probably be a really quick one, and I haven't seen this anywhere, and I think it just sounds like a great time. Then I'm excited to haul these. I don't think I've spoken a whisper of these. I have The Hating Game that I picked up used, which is a legendary book talk fave, booktube fave, enemies to lovers. What do people compare this to? You've Got Mail, which was one of my favorite rom-coms ever. I think it's just like 2 coworkers who hate each other. I know the movie came out not too long ago, so I own it now. And then I also found used Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston, which is, I've only heard good things about this, and I'm excited to actually read it and be in on the hype. This is the son of the president of the US and the son of the ruler monarch of the England is what I was gonna say. I'm not British. The son of the president of the US and then Prince Henry and him become entangled. So looking forward to it. Next, I've got some culty / religious-y ones. I know that doesn't make sense without me explaining, but I'm not gonna spoil my project. So I've got Godshot by Chelsea Beaker, which I think is her debut. It's culty. It focuses on female friendships and resilience, mother loss and motherhood. I don't need to know much else. You say women-driven culty, and I say, give it to me right this second. Next is Women Talking by Miriam Toews. Toes. Lauren Groff calls this a volcano of a novel, which is funny enough the book I have next. So that's probably a good sign. I don't know anything about this per se, except that it's like culty and probably is gonna be pretty dark. This says, based on real events, Women Talking is the story of 8 women in a remote Mennonite colony who face an agonizing decision in the aftermath of a series of unspeakable sexual crimes. Yikes. So yeah, next is Lauren Groff's Matrix, which I don't know a lot about other than I think it's also kind of culty or has a lot of like religious themes, and I think is based on a real woman. This is considered like historical fiction, historical literary, I think is how it's shelved. So I've heard extremely high reviews. This has been nominated for awards and I'm very eager to get to it. Next, I've got some more like sci-fi adjacent kind of books. First is The Ones We're Meant to Find. This is YA dystopian climate crisis sci-fi that follows 2 sisters trying to find their way back to each other. Next is Migrations by Charlotte McConaughey, and Wes bought this for me when we were on vacation last year and I still haven't read it. I think it's literary fiction about this woman who is like a scientist or something, or goes on a lot of like climate related trips, but is really about her life. So it's set with like a lot of environmentalism, but also about what's going on in her life, which sounds good to me. I also have a children's Bible, a novel by Lydia Millett, and I have such weird feelings about this cover. It looks like an old book, but this is like a brand new release. The cover is made to look old and aged like this. It just kind of trips me out. Like it looks like an old book. I think I thrifted this, even though it's a brand new release, and they literally sold it to me as like, she like looked at me and winked and sold it to me for like 50 cents because she thought it was actually a children's Bible and not a $28 novel. But it's weird because the theme of this book, I think, is like a generational divide between like teenagers and their parents, or children and their parents. And then I guess on like a family vacation, one of the kids starts noticing that these really weird things happening on their vacation like exactly mimic one of the like children's Bibles that they have. It sounds weird and cool, and it'll probably be a quick read. So next is On Such a Full Sea, and this is like future dystopian, like a future America after either a world war has wrecked everything or climate crisis has wrecked everything. There's certain like walled in, protected, wealthy cities. Everyone else in the world not privileged to be a part of those like walled in cities has to be like creating produce and products for those cities in exchange for protection from like the anarchist crime world like outside in the rest of the world. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting commentary. I know this author has won a lot of awards for this and other works as well, so looking forward to it. Then I also have If Then by Kate Hope Day, which is about this woman who's a surgeon, and she has this like vision of a coworker in bed with her husband, and her husband is like an environmental scientist, and she keeps having visions and then things get weird. And I recently read Kate Hope Day's newest release. What's it called? It's pink. It's about astronauts. It looks like this is the cover, and I loved this, and this is her debut. So I'm excited to see like the more of her style and kind of how she grew. And I think she writes very like grounded, approachable, short-ish sci-fi. And we know that I like that. Getting there, 3 more stacks. Next, I have another one that I haven't seen anywhere, but has this awesome cover, awesome title, The Slaughterman's Daughter by Yaniv Ikovitz. And this is literally shelved as historical fiction humor. I don't know what to expect. All of the blurbs say how completely unique and strange and unprecedented it is. It sounds really kooky, and that's right up my alley. Then I have How Long Till Black Future Month by Queen N.K. Jemisin. This is a collection of her short stories, including the one that originally became The City We Became, which started out as a short story that's in this book, and I freaking can't wait to read it, so soon. I should just do a whole N.K. Jemisin, like, vlog. There's so much N.K. Jemisin in this haul, it's ridiculous. Then I have this beautiful, stunning special edition of Gilded by Marissa Meyer, which came out in November, or last fall. This is her new release, and it's a Rumpelstiltskin retelling of some kind. Still haven't read it yet, but boy, is she pretty. I also recently picked up Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. I found this used and it's like in perfect condition. This is a book that was really big on BookTube a couple years ago and is about performative activism and follows this young woman who's a nanny or babysitter, and there's this like weird scandal at a grocery store and all of the fallout that happens like through that. So I think this will be a quick read. I just need to like get around to it because I love this cover and I love what it sounds like it's about, and I'm excited for it. Next is Ariadne by Jennifer Saint, which this is also one that Wes bought for me. And this is Greek mythology and literally says, Jennifer Saint's Ariadne forges a new epic, one that puts the forgotten women of Greek mythology back at the heart of the story as they strive for a better world. Need I say more than that? Oh my gosh, I also just found another book that Jayla got me because it was in like a different stack of books. She got me Pirate Women, which is like a collection of random like nonfiction stories, legends, facts about princesses, prostitutes, and privateers who ruled the seven seas. I love pirate stuff, so thank you, Jayla, once again. Next, I have a bunch of like little tiny ones, so I'll just go right through these. I have Yesterday by Juan Imar, which is a translated tiny little novella I picked up recently. This is a Chilean author and it sounds like it's complete surrealism and like strangeness, and I'm just here for it. Then I have Binti by Nnedi Okorafor, which I've seen this book around. I did not realize it was so tiny, but I've heard Nnedi Okorafor mentioned constantly in like sci-fi circles, and I'm excited to get like a little teensy taste of what she can do. I know this is some kind of sci-fi novella, that's literally it. Then I also got The Friend by Sigrid Nunez, which apparently is a National Book Award winner, and the blurb on the back says, a moving story of love, friendship, grief, healing, and the magical bond between a woman and her dog, which like, that was a no-brainer. Then I have Pond by Claire Louise Bennett, which I think is also this author's debut, and is the like meditations and life of an unnamed protagonist about life on the outskirts of a small coastal village. And it just also sounds like it's gonna be weird. If you're picking up on a pattern here.
Yeah.
I also have In 5 Years by Rebecca Searle, and I think this is about two best friends who grow apart and maybe grow back together. Not sure. I've heard a lot of people crying over this book or feeling really seen and understood by this book, and that's enough for me to want to read it, honestly. Next is Heather the Totality, and I'm not gonna lie, I literally bought this because it says a novel from the creator of Mad Men, and it's tiny, and I want to read it, and I also want Wes to read it. For like that reason alone, and I think it'll be short and easy, and I know nothing else. Then I have The Island of Sea Women by Lisa C., which I'm so intrigued by. It's blurbed by Jodi Picoult, Sue Monk Kidd, and Kristen Hanna, so like quite a lineup. And also in Beasts of a Little Land that I mentioned earlier, it kind of talks about the Sea Women briefly, which are Korean women who is like this all-female collective of divers on this like little Korean island of Jeju. Yeah, so I don't know what the actual plot is about, but to just read a book about sea women, literally sign me up. Next is We Write Upon Sticks by Quan Berry. I've also heard super mixed reviews about this one, but I know it's about like women in sports, female friendships, and also is vaguely witchy. So it sounds like a bunch of my favorite things, and I hope that the complete product is a good time. Two more stacks. I have Dog Songs by Mary Oliver. This is a poetry collection about the bond between human and dogs, that's all I need is that. That's all I want. Guess what? More N.K. Jemisin. I just picked up The Killing Moon and The Shadowed Sun, which are the Dream Blood duology. I know nothing about the plot of this series. The back of this talks about how there's these people called gatherers, and they have to harvest the magic of the sleeping mind and use it to heal and soothe and kill those judged corrupt. Great. Awesome. Perfect. Wonderful. I've got two random sci-fis. One is Isaac Asimov's Cyber Dreams, a collection of Isaac Asimov sci-fi stories. And then one is God's Monsters and the Lucky Peach. And I truthfully got it because of the funky title, and it's short, it should be fun. That's about all I know. And now I have two graphic novels. Well, I guess one is a graphic memoir. I have Funhouse, a family tragicomic. So this is Alison Bechdel's graphic memoir of growing up queer and her life and everything regarding that. And also Andre the Giant by Box Brown, which Box Brown writes the most random, specific graphic nonfiction. Like, he's the artist and author of Tetris, the graphic nonfiction that I love so much, and to the point where I will read anything he does. Andre the Giant graphic nonfiction? Oh, sure, why not? And then I have a YA short story collection, Geektastic. Stories from the Nerd Herd. And I think this is going to be especially fun because this was published in 2009. So I think it's going to be like a time capsule of early 2000s and like nerd culture, which sounds perfect, and I need that in my life. Then I have another YA contemporary, which is Girls on the Verge. And this is about a teenager who finds herself pregnant and tries to recruit a couple of friends to go on like a road trip to essentially like a Planned Parenthood, take care of whatever she needs to take care of, whatever her decision is. It doesn't say. Girls on the Verge brings to life an incredibly timely narrative about a woman's right to choose and the friends who are there for every turn in the road. Sounds wonderful. I'm obsessed. Next is Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. This won the Women's Prize for Fiction 2 years ago and is historical literary fiction based on like Shakespeare's son Hamnet, and it's theorized that maybe Shakespeare wrote Hamlet after his son's death. So this is about like the fictional life of Shakespeare's son, maybe. I also have How Much of These Hills Is Gold by C. Pam Zhang, which is set in the time of the gold rush in like a reimagined American West. And I know it's talked about as a good sibling story, a good like family story, kind of unpacks like the myth of the American dream. Should be a good ass time. Okay, this one is so random, but this is Three Strange Women by Marie Ndiaye, and this is translated from French, so check number 1. Also, she's the first Black woman ever to win the coveted Prix Goncourt, check 2. And the first line of the first blurb says, sinewy and sardonic, combining realism and fable in a way that mixes Kafka and Cinderella. Check 3. I don't know anything else and I don't need to. So was such like a random one, but I'm very excited about it still. This is also a random one, but I have A Lady's Formula for Love by Elizabeth Everett. And this is historical romance, but also where the woman is a scientist and chemist. Don't need to know anything else. I'm just in the mood for like a good fluffy romance featuring a historical woman scientist. Great. What's better than that? First on my nonfiction stack is Jello Girls by Ali Rowbottom, A Family History. And this sounds fascinating. It's about the heirs of the family who owns Jello, and how there seems to be this curse in the women of the family and they all die. in like similar mysterious ways. That's like stranger than fiction, you know? So Jello Girls, high on my list. Next on the nonfiction list is one that I've seen everywhere on Bookstagram, and I'm so excited to have a copy, is Minor Feelings by Kathy Park Hong, An Asian American Reckoning. And this is essays about her experience being Korean American and what it's like to unpack her racial identity in America, part memoir and part cultural criticism. Need it. I need it. I can't wait. Okay, this one like makes me giddy. This is Code Girls, the untold story of the American women code breakers of World War II. And I picked this up after I became fascinated with the women code breakers after reading The Rose Code by Kate Quinn. So that actually happened, and so many women, American and non-American, broke codes and worked in secret intelligence during the war, and I'm excited for like actual big chunky nonfiction about it. I also got Mozart's Starling by Leanda Lynn Hoped, which is one of my favorite nonfiction writers. She writes like nature nonfiction, a lot of birds. She wrote Crow Planet, which was one of my favorite nonfictions ever because I am obsessed with crows. And this is Mozart's Starling, kind of talks about how Mozart had a pet starling, and also Leanda Hoped, I guess, raised or nursed one back to health, and talks about starlings and birds, and I could go on forever, but looking forward to more bird nonfiction because I'm a huge dork. And then taking a left turn, I have Black Flag's Blue Waters, the epic history of America's most notorious pirates. Again, I just have a thing for pirates. Not more to be said, really. Next, oh my god, is 400 Souls, which is a chunk. All of the collaborators are on the back, but it's edited by Ibram X. Kendi and Keisha L. Blaine. And this tells a big story, the 400-year journey of African Americans from 1619 to the present. And so the two editors collaborated with 90 different writers and gave each of them a chunk of time spanning those 400 years to create something, to like stitch together into this. Some of them wrote like personal stories or essays or research pieces or short stories, and it all adds up to this like 400-year treasure. Now I've just got some weird nonfiction. I have The Ends of the World, Volcanic Apocalypses, Lethal Oceans, and Our Quest to Understand Earth's Past Mass Extinctions. I feel like that pretty much explains it. But yeah, all of the ways that disasters and apocalypses could happen or have happened or will happen. Then I have A Short History of Drunkenness, How, Why, Where, and When Humankind Has Gotten Merry from the Stone Age to the Present. And I thought that this sounded fun. It seems pretty short and sweet. The cover is just a good old time also. This sounds fun because one, I do like a beverage, and second of all, my full-time job is pouring alcohol. I manage a winery and host wine tastings every single day. So this just felt like a necessity in my life. I also have Queercore, How to Punk a Revolution, an oral history. About sums it up, and it claims to be the first of its kind. The very first comprehensive overview of a movement that defied both the music underground and the LGBT mainstream community. This one, I'm also not gonna lie, I bought purely because of the title. I really just have a thing for like clickbaity titles, I guess. I mean, book titles is the original clickbait, really, right? It says Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Puffs by Chuck Klosterman. Which, come on, Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Puffs is the best title I've ever seen. It's hilarious and alluring and scandalous, and somehow I want to be all those things. I literally don't know what, I think it's essays, like cultural essays, but old now. So this is also going to be a time capsule of American culture, which is exactly what I want. 2004. So I guess I have some early 2000s culture to dive into. Very last book that I'm hauling is Little Weirds by Jenny Slate. And Jenny Slate, if you don't know, is the creator of those old wholesome YouTube videos, Marcel the Shell with shoes on, and she's also an actress and does so many other awesome things, but Marcel the Shell gave me so many giggles back in the day, and Jenny Slate herself is like hilarious and funny and profound and smart, and this is her book. Kind of gives me John Green's Anthropocene Reviewed vibes, where it's kind of just her own funny, unique look on life and culture and all of that stuff, which I haven't even read John Green's book, but it's on the list also. Whoa, that's it. Look. That's so many books. That's so many books. I don't even know how to wrap this up. Have you read any of these? Where do I start? What should I read first? I feel really lucky and blessed and grateful to have found all of these, so many of them at like a discounted used price, to be able to have all of them, put them on my shelves, have the time and space and privilege to read all of them and enjoy them and talk about them on the internet. Like, I'm just feeling very like, ooh, excited and giddy about it now that I've spent all this time talking to you about them. But yeah, definitely let me know if there's any favorites in here or any that sound fun or interesting to you. I would love to know all of those things. Thank you so much for watching this very long, very chaotic, fun, wild video. If you made it to the end, maybe leave me a mountain emoji, because that's about what it feels like right now. This is for sure a mountain of books that I have to somehow reorganize and blend in with my shelf. I don't know where these came from. I'll have to figure that out in a second. I don't even know how I'm gonna take a thumbnail for this. This is so many books. How would I even go about that? Okay, I'm gonna try and take a thumbnail here, but thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you are well, and I will see you very soon. Love you, bye.